Hey TV fans, Bored now back with you. On this video I return to Them, the Scare. So this is episode 5. The episode is called Luke 8:17. Full spoilers from the start of this review as always. And just to say, if you like this review and want to see more content on the channel like this, then please like and subscribe this video. Subscribe if you are a first time listener to this channel. But yeah, I'm gonna get into it, and this is a solid episode. It's a shorter episode. It's the shortest so far, just over half an hour, and I noticed the next episode is the same length, so I'm not sure if they're treating this episode and episode 6 as maybe like a two-parter unofficially, but then they maybe do feel like a pair of episodes. Could be, but this episode does a really good job of bringing the two halves of the plot together, and it is confirmed in this episode, which probably is no great surprise in some ways, but it's confirmed that Dawn is Edmund's sister. And that's revealed in a flashback, which I'll get to because that scene is the highlight of the episode. I think it's a really great scene. But this episode does a good job of bringing those plots together anyway. And it makes the most of its time, even though it is like a shorter episode. So we open with a religious scene, and we see Pam Grier's character Anthea in church, and because of some of the stuff from her past, because of the way she lied to Dawn and lied to her about her being her mother, then she's got a crisis of faith, and so she's back in church. And we see later her starting to confess her sins to the Father. But we open with a very dramatic scene, like this preacher at Anthea's church giving like a sermon. And he's talking about choices, about how like all God's children have choices to make or something. And that is nicely cut to Edmund's side of the plot at the same time, because we see him drag the guy who he kidnapped in the last episode out to the desert, and he brutally kills him even though the guy begs him off. And it's at this point where you can hear the preacher in voiceover saying about all God's children having choices. So it links nicely between the two plots, that there's a thematic link. And yeah, I did wonder if you would have this direct link between the two plots, and this episode confirms it. And because it handles it so well, I don't really have too much of a problem with it. Now, there's a bit more development in the Dawn side this episode when it comes to the case, because first of all, there's a small scene with her boyfriend where he does a little bit of a 160 because of the previous night, because of what went down at her ex-partner's house. Name escapes me now, but because of that stuff, she went and got herself drunk, and when she was with the boyfriend, she was having like nightmares and was talking in her sleep, and he says this and says, it's okay, I want to be here for her. But then he does do a bit of a 160, because when she withdraws from him and says, no, it's alright, I don't want you to worry about it, he then pretty much breaks up with her. Like, not officially, but he makes it clear that this stuff has been going on for 2 years and I can't really deal with it, and I want to have a normal life. And she says, to be fair, I want that for you. And I'm not, obviously, if he's been dealing with it for 2 years and she hasn't been receptive, then I can understand that. But it just seems a little bit of a quick turnaround in the scene where he's supporting her 1 minute, and then just because she kind of withdraws and says no, it's all right, you don't have to worry, then he's talking about their future the next minute. But the other thing is, we haven't really seen this character that much, so it's a little bit hard to really care about this side of the plot. But I guess it's just another way of showing that this is impacting on her personal life, and the mention of it being 2 years shows that this is a long running problem with Dawn. But yeah, there is nice continuity though, because the boyfriend does appear in the flashback. So this episode does plant the seeds quite nicely of what has gone down with Dawn over the past 2 years, and how probably the stuff with Edmund has impacted her. But also there's strong hints that a lot of what he is doing, and it involving like magic, maybe black magic, is impacting on her side as well, and like literally affecting her. Which I don't know how I feel about overall, because yeah, I don't know if we really need that much of a link, but if they're going to do the brother and sister thing with them, I guess why not? But yeah, there's sort of a break in the case, because it's quite a funny scene in the diner later when Joaquin comes to see Dawn, and she is hungover, so she's got like one of those like hangover cures type drinks, and he's concerned about her, says maybe you're getting too close to the case, this is too personal for her, and she's concerned with him as well, and says maybe if this is too much, you don't have to take it. And they both agree that, hey, we want to do this, so we're in this together. So it's quite a nice moment, and he brings her this file and this lead of this guy, and it involves a boy who was involved in an exorcism, and he's part of like a Mexican family. And one of the things the boy mentions is that he had visions of a man with red hair outside his house, which is what was happening with the killer. The killer's been known to have had red hair. So they go to question the family, and again, this is where the religious stuff comes back into it, because it's a super religious family, and that's why they've got an exorcist in to try and deal with the boy's problems. And it's a well done scene, because you've got Joaquin who speaks the language, and he's communicating with the mother, but she's very hostile, doesn't trust the police. But it's a way also for her to be distracted with Joaquin as Dawn talks to the boy. And the boy gives her like a little bit of information. Like he talks about seeing a man in the mirror. He also tells her about like that this clown said he would kill him. He also mentions his brother, so Dawn gets Joaquin to ask the mother about the brother Benito, I think his name is, and the mother says then he came down from Mexico to live with them a few years back. And then things get cut off when Dawn asks to see inside the house, wants to search their house, and she says to tell her I can get a warrant if needs be, and the mother just shuts the door on them, says this isn't a place for the police, this is a place for God. So later on in the episode we see them waiting outside, staking out the place as the family attempt another exorcism. And this is probably, apart from the scene with the boyfriend, I think this is the only other scene I didn't really like too much, just because it's very hammy and over the top. And because this show treads a fine line between like the supernatural stuff and like metaphor, and but then the kind of grounded realistic stuff, I think you do have certain moments that are heightened and a little bit too over the top. It happens very rarely. It happens so fewer times, then it's not a massive deal. Like, it doesn't really drag the show down overall. But when it does happen, I think it stands out. And I think, like, this exorcism scene with the boy is one of those times for me where I was taken out of it, because I think on the whole they get like the right balance, and a lot of the scenes feel natural, or at least it feels on point, and it kind of makes sense that when you are getting a more surreal, trippy type scene and something where they're going for a little bit more of a supernatural or horror type vibe. So this did stand out. Like, it's not awful, and I can forgive it partly because this is set in the early 90s, and this family is very traditional and super religious. But I did think the scene was a bit too over the top. And the exorcism isn't going very well. Again, the boy is having all sorts of issues. He's on the verge of dying. So Dawn and Joaquin come in, and against the family's will, Dawn starts driving him to the hospital, and at the same time we're cutting between flashes of Edmund on the videotape, Edmund giving this speech, and it's about Dawn, and I'm going to talk about the flashback in a minute, but he's talking about how he's jealous of his sister, and how there's a line about you're going to play with all my toys, or something like that he's saying. It's a really, like, obsessive, like, type message. And we're cutting between the two, and it does seem like something he's doing is having an impact on what's happening in the car with Dawn and the boy, because the boy starts freaking out. And I think it's possible, this episode suggests anyway, it's possible that maybe it is all just like black magic being performed, and that's what's infecting this boy. Like, and I don't know what that means about the murders themselves. I'm assuming whoever the murderer is, that's someone different, because I'm pretty sure it's not Edmund. But so the black magic stuff, if that is a legitimate thing, is separate from the murders, I think, anyway. But then it might just be one of those things where they're cutting between the two, and it's kind of just showing maybe then this stuff from the past is on Dawn's mind, more than Edmund is literally performing black magic at that point and impacting on the boy. But that's kind of the end of the episode, so I'll jump back now and talk about the flashback scene with Edmund and Dawn. Because in the past, Edmund gets a call where he's been asking someone to look up his sister, his like birth sister, and he gets the details, so he gets the address. And this is a really clever scene as well, because he goes over to the house, and this is before I realised it was a flashback. So we cut between him going to this house in the past and Dawn in the present at her house. And because of the reveal of them being brother and sister, this is why this is really clever. Because someone is ringing at Dawn's doorbell in the present, and we're meant to believe, or led to believe, then it's going to be Edmund. And it turns out it's her son, and we later find out it's a flashback with Edmund anyway. But yeah, at first it threw me, because so Dawn's boyfriend answers the door, and this is a few years back, so I'm guessing it's the same boyfriend who we've seen in the present, maybe. I couldn't really tell. They've made him look a bit younger if it is him, but I'm going to guess maybe it's the same guy. And Edmund pretends to be like the new neighbour. So he comes in, and then Dawn comes down as well. And they've done a good job of making her look younger. Her hair looks different. But before I realised this was a flashback, I was questioning this. I was like, okay, what's going on? Is this in the past? Is this like some sort of an alternative, I don't know, like universe or timeline? Or are they just playing with us by having the same actress play this part? I wasn't quite sure. And then after a while, it cottoned on me. I almost said it dawned on me, but I got the gist of what was happening. But this is a great scene because we see Dawn's instincts really kick in as she gets more and more suspicious of Edmund during the scene. And the husband is like, I'm sorry, she never drops the act. She's always playing the detective even out of hours, and he's sort of warmed to Edmund. Like, Edmund has like charmed him, whereas Dawn, I mean, at first she doesn't really have anything to be suspicious of. She literally is just introduced to him and thinks he's a new neighbour. And I'm guessing it must be so long ago that she doesn't remember Edmund, and that's the reason she doesn't twig that this is her brother or anything. Maybe she never met him. We don't really know much about this, but I'm guessing if she did, then it was so long ago, then yeah, she doesn't really have a memory of him. But anyway, as the scene goes on, she gets more suspicious of Edmund because she sees him shaking, his hands are shaking, and she also notices his hands are bruised. And so that, and I do like this because it's like her detective instincts are kicking in throughout the scene, and it's making Edmund more and more nervous as she starts questioning him. And it's only when he starts talking in a very like unnatural way about the family photos and the pictures and how impressed he is with all of it, and yeah, just talks in a very like weird sort of passive aggressive way. It's only then that the husband starts twigging that maybe this guy isn't on the up and up, and they get him to admit that he's not who he says he is. He's not from the neighbourhood. And Dawn is questioning him about like because at one point she asks about who he bought the house from, and he tries to cover by saying I can't really remember. But yeah, she goes full-blown detective because she actually gets him to like turn around and put his hands behind his back, and she asks him what he's doing here, and he doesn't give her like a proper answer. He just says sorry, it's a mistake. But it's a great way to have the tables turned on this guy who has done so much to other people and made them the victims. But it's also a good character beat for Dawn, I think. So as he's leaving the house, she warns him not to come back again, to stay away from her family, and she says, if you do come back again, I'll have you arrested. So it's from there that Edmund goes back to his place, and we see him filming the video, and we also see in his head this doll that he's got is talking to him and saying about how your sister rejected you, your own flesh and blood. And yeah, no, I think it's very well done, and that scene was definitely the highlight of the episode. And as I said, they do a great job of bringing these two plots together. And yeah, there's some good possibilities now for the final few episodes with the Dawn and Edmund link, and there's still questions to be answered, and like how much of like, is this literally him doing black magic on her and impacting on her life? Or is that just more of a metaphor? There's still little things to be played with and answered. So, but yeah, I thought it was a good episode. I think they made the most of the running, like the shorter run time. So yeah, that's Them the Scared, or Them the Scare, I should say, episode 5. Let me know your thoughts if you've seen this in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always. And you can share me out on social media. let your friends know. Also, if you want to support the channel monetarily, there's two ways you can do it. You can either make a monthly donation at patreon.com/borednow, and that's for as little as $1 a month. You can give more if you want, but if you just want to give the dollar, then feel free to just give the dollar, and for that you get early access to reviews. You also get early access to special lists or special unpopular opinion videos, and you also get movie and TV commentary. So lots of extras at patreon.com/bored. Now you also get occasionally like a clip which I've cut out from the video, or like an exclusive clip from like a proper episode, but the clip doesn't feature in the public episode on YouTube. So from time to time you'll get that sort of thing as well. So lots to sign up for if you do want to support the channel monetarily. As I said, patreon.com/bored now. And the other thing you could do if you just want to make a one-off donation to support the channel is that you could make a donation at my PayPal account, which is on the channel, but I'll also link it in this video. But thanks for listening, and I'll return with episode 6 soon. Thanks, guys.